Thank you. Great conversation and talk over there. I think you took the house down. That was good. I don't know if skill-based curriculum is going to be as riveting as ChatGPT. However, we will dive a little bit more into specific softer skills and define what that means. So I was actually thinking about the title of this really should be more titled, Are Your Students Prepared for Skill-Based Hiring? Because that's what the rise in hiring and recruiting methodologies are. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about skill-based hiring, but I was thinking it probably should have a different title. Just a little bit about me. I'm Sandra Sjoberg. I'm Associate Dean and Director at Western Governors University. I oversee our marketing and innovation programs. Prior to my time at WGU, and I've been there about 6.5 years, I was with Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And I taught for 12 years with them. And then prior to that, I was in industry in various marketing and finance roles with Coca-Cola, Kraft Foods, Nabisco. So I come from a consumer products background. And having had on-ground and online experience, I have experience in designing and developing individual courses, as we all do, but also a master curriculum, which is what we have at WGU. Now, a little bit about WGU, if you're not familiar. We serve over 139,000 students, yes. And in the College of Business, we are the largest college and school in College of Business at 42,000 students. My undergrad marketing program is 2,600 students, which is actually larger than the size of the campus I taught on. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around that sometimes, thinking about the amount of students that we're serving. And I've just recently launched 2 Masters of Science in Marketing programs. In January is our digital marketing program, and in March was our marketing analytics program. And right now we are at 270 students in those programs and growing. So really excited about those 2 new programs that we just launched. Now, as a competency-based institution, because WGU is an online competency-based accredited institution, we really do recognize that learners have different levels of knowledge and they learn at different rates. We focus on the mastery of the competency, the demonstration of the skills. We focus on the learning, and we do not hold seat time constant. So with competency-based education, our students can move at their own pace through the courses. They're not tied to an 8, 6, 12, 16-week semester. Now, we do this at scale. We've pioneered online education, and we do this at scale with a focus on quality of our program. Our College of Business is accredited through ACBSP, and also through relevancy, aligning our programs to workforce needs. It's all about creating pathways of opportunities for our students, and it's about focusing on the marketability and the employability, the return for our student. And today's conversation is really going to focus on relevancy here and alignment with workforce needs. So, what is a skill-based curriculum? This is the topic and the title of the conversation. So what is a skill-based curriculum? The best way to think about a skill-based curriculum is backwards design. We start with the industry. We start with the skills in the industry and the industry analysis before we even think about, well, what's going on with the skills that are needed in the industry, before we develop and write our competencies, before we even select our learning resources. So we're starting with the industry. We're doing a lot of industry research, moving into our course design and development, of which we also validate with external SMEs. And then we think about also our program offerings. How does all of this scaffold? Not just one course, but how does it also scaffold into the entire program? Are we designing a program that's meeting workforce needs? And also thinking about that marketability and the employability of our students. That's really important. So think about curriculum, skill-based design curriculum as backwards design. We start with the industry first. And the way to look at this is, how do we start with the industry? We do a labor market analysis. And we also look at job titles or SOC codes. Now we know SOC codes through Bureau of Labor Statistics was last updated in 2018. We don't even have an SOC code for digital marketers, as all marketing is digital marketing, right? Makes sense, but it's lumped into market research and other, right now. So sometimes we just have to go look at job titles, and we're even looking for some titles that may not exist yet, like prompt engineers, those types of titles. So jobs of the future as well. And then from that, we'll move into skills, mapping of skills, which is really a network of skills that are mapped to the competencies. And then we move into course design and development. So what does it look like from a labor market analysis? One of the great things for us with our marketing programs is that marketing jobs are growing. They're growing at 3 times the national average. There's so much opportunity for our marketing students, and our marketing program should be growing because the job market opportunities are growing as well. But here's just an example where we can see there's great job opportunity, and then we can see the SOC codes, and there's great growth in all of the SOC codes as well. We'll do this type of research first to help us understand what types of programs under that marketing term and that marketing field do we need to be offering? What types of courses align to the industry jobs and what's coming in the future as well? So we're not just looking at it on a course-by-course basis, we're taking that programmatic lens and applying the industry research to that. Now from this, we're going to drill down into job titles. We're going to drill down into skills as well. So I'm just giving you an overview and kind of a flavor of kind of the process of going through a skills-based curriculum. And with the industry demanded skills, here's an example of 3 digital marketing specialization areas: social media marketing, marketing analytics, and content marketing. Now, this is only listing the top skills, the top 10 skills. And if you notice, these are all more the technical skills, right? We know the soft skills are so important. And soft skills, so we would actually break this down into a very big skills map that is then going to align to our competencies, and that will help us then design our courses and teach the right material and assess the right content. So for example, though, looking at this, marketing analytics is a good example because top skills are SQL, Tableau, Python, and we talked about this in analytics of teaching R in programs. And I think by looking at the skills, we can actually say, what is our course going to teach and what is our course not going to teach? So we may have a marketing analytics course that specifically says, we're not going to teach the programming languages. We're going to teach how to take data and make decisions from the data, how to develop the strategy versus being the programmer. So by looking at these skills, it also helps us to identify what we truly and define. What are we going to teach and what are we not going to teach? What will we assess? What are we not going to assess? So I think that's really important here, but we also look at the trends in terms of what's going on with the industry. We will sort these skills also by future growth and look forward thinking and understand where all the skills are in the industry. But this is all coming off of data that we are using from various labor market resource databases and working with our skills architect team. We actually have an entire team dedicated to skills architecture, as well as working with our designers and our instructional designers and our assessment developers as well. But this is just an example to show kind of a way to think about the content that you are teaching and a way to look at it. But I think it's important that we define what is a skills ecosystem and why is it important. And the most important reason for a skills-based curriculum is the rise in skill-based hiring. Now, Curricula, they did a survey of almost 2,800 companies, 2,700 candidates in 40 industries, and found that 76% of the employers are using skills-based hiring. And not only that, more plan to be using skills-based hiring. What is skills-based hiring? It's essentially a recruiting methodology that looks at quantifiable, emphasizing quantifiable skills. And it is done through demonstration of your portfolio, students showing portfolios of their work. Can they demonstrate the skills? It's actually done through testing. Curricula does some of the testing in skills-based hiring. But this is why it's so important to have a skills ecosystem that can help us bridge education to industry. And it's about creating this common skills language between education, and industry. And there's been discussion moving forward of moving towards a skills-based transcript and having students list skills out, not only from a transcript perspective, but on their resume. But the thing that's really interesting on the research around skills-based hiring is specifically that it has benefited diversity, equity, and inclusion, DE&I, because there's been an increase in hiring diversity through skills-based hiring because it's the focus on the output and the skill. And that's been really exciting research coming out of skills-based hiring. But we definitely need a common language of a skills ecosystem for these reasons. Now, has anyone here heard of the Open Skills Network? Has anyone used the Open Skills Network? OpenSkillsNetwork.org, wonderful website. I encourage all of you to go out to Open Skills Network. Open Skills Network is basically a coalition of educators, policymakers, employers, publishing a standardization for skills and for skill definitions. And this is really exciting because the Open Skills Network is really about a tool set and setting standards so that we can have that common language between education and industry. And what's really exciting is, and WG is leading the charge with the Open Skills Network with policymakers and also with other nonprofits and employers as well. But you'll notice we have a published skills library of over 20,000 skills. And these skills include, if you notice, a lot of marketing skills. And one of the reasons for a lot of the marketing skills is because I just launched 2 new Masters of Science in Marketing programs. And we've done a lot of skills work. And I'm really excited to say that in January of this year, we launched our digital marketing skills library. It's out there and it's accessible and usable for everyone. And it consists of 185 RSDs, so there's a little bit of language here. A rich skill descriptor is essentially a skill or a category that houses metadata about it. And within that metadata is going to be a skill statement. And the skill statement is what's really, really important, because the skill statement is going to talk about the nature of the skill and the context in which it is applied. So while we have soft skills of critical thinking, what is it about critical thinking that students need to demonstrate to employers? Because there's many different skills under critical thinking, because we can say critical thinking, problem solving, but what does that really mean? So the skill statements is a beautiful way to be able to say, how is the skill going to be applied? What does the behavior look like of that skill? So in the library, you can pull up the rich skills descriptors for digital marketing, and there's other marketing skills in there as well, and then also the skill statements. So let me give you a couple examples of some skill statements. There's going to be a category like advertising, content marketing, email, or critical thinking, the soft skills as well. So power skills are in here and the soft skills. So let's look at the category of advertising. So the skill statement is identify the target audience for a marketing campaign. Now I put in parentheses so you can see what's the nature of the skill. Identify a target audience. That's the skill. Now, what context is that being applied in a marketing campaign? It's more narrowly defined as to what is the skill that's going to be used in industry. So if you think about critical thinking being a softer skill, we all talk about critical thinking and the cognitive level associated with that. But if we look at this one, it's evaluate sources. That's the nature of skill. Can you evaluate the source for complex work challenges? And if you think about ChatGPT, right? That's a beautiful skill for ChatGPT course where you're evaluating the sources for a complex work challenge, which may be a blog headline or rewriting the website headline, the headlines that Christina provided in her assignments in the previous room. So you can see how this gives the skills now more context as to what is it that the student can demonstrate to the employer. Now, what do we do with that? We take the industry analysis, we take the market analysis, the job labor market analysis, drive that down into skills level. We map these skills out to then what we develop as our competencies. Now, we will have competencies because we are a competency-based education institution. Competencies are what we are assessing. Can the student demonstrate competency? And now, competencies can then also be broken down into proficiency statements, which are measurable, or at a lesson level, we could break them down to a learning objective. But we still need a higher level competency, and then we can break it down to a learning objective. And one of the things I really encourage is making sure that all our learning objectives are measurable. Can we measure everything that we're asking the students to do? Because that's what we want to do, is be able to measure it so they can demonstrate that competency. But most importantly, then we can develop assignments and projects that actually are aligned to the skills we're asking them to do. List those skills out on our projects, list those skills out on our assignments. They can then transfer that into their resume, or they can actually show and talk about, just like Stu showed the video this morning with the simulation, list the skills that I've learned through that simulation and be able to have the conversation with the employer about it. So I wanted to share with you, this is from a social media marketing, an example of a competency. The learner determines, and I'm going to bring up the verb because we talked about verb, determine being the verb, right? What level of assessment are we going to be doing? This is a lower, determines is a lower level competency, right? Determines the appropriate social media platforms for intended audiences. And then underneath it are various skills that would apply to that. Skills that say, can you differentiate the various social media platforms? When would you use one over the other platform? How do you identify the social media channels, the nature, right, of the skill, to best reach the prospective customer of a project or service, the context in which that skill is, that nature, that skill is applied. So then you can see how these skills then can be listed underneath of the competencies. We can put that on our assignments, on our projects, and be able to do that. So it's really great to be able to think about this a little bit more granular, if I could say it that way, because we talk a lot about the soft skills of problem solving and critical thinking, but could we take it a little bit further and say, what is the skill that we expect from critical thinking? And that's the skill that our employers are expecting our students be able to do. So these are some examples to be able to show how this all weaves together with a skills-based curriculum. And if you think about the way it works, from that course design perspective, that's skills mapping, right? A network of skills that are going to align to marketable outcomes and expectations of industry needs and industry demands, right? But then we can then say, well, what learning resources best support that learning? Then we can look at it and say, well, are there other pathways of opportunities that we can create for our students that may not come from traditional LRs and learning resources? Maybe they're coming from industry certifications. I've heard in a couple other presentations like HubSpot Academy, be able to use some of the resources that are out there. In our Masters of Science in Marketing program, we did partner with Google. We actually built the program on 4 industry partnerships. Grow with Google, so students can earn the Grow with Google digital marketing and e-commerce certification within the program, part of their tuition. We've also partnered with HubSpot through their education partner, so students get to play with the software and the HubSpot and also earn that software certification that is only available to subscribers, HubSpot subscribers, so that's a huge value to the student. We've also partnered with OMCA, Online Marketing Certified Associate Certification. So we partnered with OMCP for the OMCA certification and aligned our course and offer a voluntary voucher for students to sit for that certification. And then we've also partnered with Digital Analytics Association, wonderful professional organization where our students receive free memberships into DAA so they can start their networking process during the degree and not have to wait till after the degree. But these are opportunities, though, where they can build more credentials into their pathway on the degree and build those skills. And the Grow with Google certification specifically has some outstanding application with projects and being able to build that student portfolio. But this is really important, and that mapping and the competencies is what is going to help us develop our assessment and our assessment blueprint. What is it that we need to assess? And those verbs help us determine at what level will we be assessing as well. And we will have 3 to 4 competencies within a course, and then we'll weight those competencies as well as to the importance of that content and that competency within the course. And we use external SMEs for validation process as well through the assessment process. But what we do is not just look at it at the course level. We have to go to the program offerings, and we have to look at it from a programmatic perspective, a programmatic lens. Not just the one course that's being taught, but how do all the courses of the program scaffold to provide the portfolio of skills that a student needs to succeed in the marketing industry. And specifically for the area, let's say in our Masters of Science in Marketing, we have a marketing analytics specialization. What skills are needed in the marketing analytics field versus the digital marketing, depending on their jobs? But this is a great way to think about it, but what's most important is the return on the investment. Because our goal is to create pathways of opportunities for our students, and those pathways of opportunities are a return on investment for them for the cost of their education. So that's why skill-based curriculum is so important, because it's about the marketability and the employability of our students. And then as we move forward and take skills and bridge the gap between education and industry, I do, and we've talked about CS moving forward to skills-based transcripts, skills badges, other types of credentials that can be offered for our student along the way. So what does this mean for you? Because at WGU, we're doing this at scale. We're doing this. So if I had to say, like, what was my call to action? It would be, one, think about the next time you develop and design your course. Start backwards. Start with the industry. Do a little bit of industry research. Use the Bureau of Labor Statistic. Lightcast, while it's a labor market data source, they have a skills library as well out on their website. So there's ways to be able to source some of this information. In addition, Open Skills Network, and I'm so honored to be able to introduce you to Open Skills Network, to be able to use some of the skills that and skills library that are published out there and be able to look at those skills. And I would recommend also ensuring that your assignments or projects within the course are aligned to the skills demanded in the industry, and list those skills out on those assignments, list those skills out on that assessment, because then it's giving the student the opportunity to say, what is it I need to talk about during an interview? Then how do I position in word what I've learned and what I've used, and using the language that's being demanded in the industry? And saying the skill statements and using the skill statements in a way that you can explain to the employer what you did, why you did it, and then what was the outcome. So looking at ways to build in portfolio of industry artifacts and building those portfolios for students, whether they're building them digitally and putting them online, or if they're doing, you know, the old school portfolio of a hard copy as well. I would also recommend, while I know a lot of folks here are teaching specific courses or grouping of courses, going back and saying, how does this whole entire marketing program align to the industry? How are we scaffolding together and getting together with the departments to talk about that? I was talking to someone, I think it was on the bus yesterday, where it was like, you may be in 3 sections of a course, but each course has a different experience. How do we align to make sure that all those skills are being taught in all sections of the courses as well? I think that's an opportunity. And I think what's really important is your course worth its cost? And one of the things we do at WGU is we have a factored graduate return rate that we calculate. And we calculate and projecting that our students will earn 23.5 times the cost of their tuition over their earnings. So how do we make sure that we can steward that and be able to, you know, help our students, especially help us deal with one of the things that Stu talked about earlier too, was the cost of education, right? Changing the education system. Cost is part of the change. And that's one of the things that WGU is doing, is the pathways of opportunity through accessibility and through online accessibility, but also through cost. But being able to offer a quality accredited program at a reasonable cost. So these are the things that I would recommend, and there's resources that are out there. I recognize that I have the honor and blessing to work with an amazing institution that has a lot of resources, that supports a lot of the research and the skills work that we've done, but there's a lot of research out there, and I hope the Open Skills Network could be a source, especially for the digital marketing skills, to be able to think about putting some of those on your syllabi, and also thinking about your assignments. What skills are we teaching our students through those assignments as well? So that's everything that I had. I'd love to open it up to questions and answer anything, and hopefully this gave you an overview of skills-based curriculum and recognizing there's a lot more research that goes into it. But I think I want to go back here for 1 second. But seeing how we can now take some of the skills we've been talking about and put them into context. Well, I appreciate the time, I appreciate the attention, and I hope that this will be some information that'll just get you thinking the next time you design and start developing your course, and you just think about, well, what skills are our students learning? So thank you very much.